the stretch to the edge. What a hurl by Jackson! Highlight reel touchdown! The seed is going to be Louisville and Brohm. Louisville, national champion.
Hello again, everybody. I am your host tonight, Kyle, joined by Patrick and Ross, and we are back with another episode of the Third Banner Pod, and it's going to be a good episode. We all know why. We all know what we saw last night. It seems like it could be deceiving after what we've seen the last couple of years, but we're so back, man. Derek, Anthony, Brian, Ezra, Couch House, of course. Welcome in, guys. We'll let you guys funnel on in, but I need to know how you boys are doing. It's been a while.
Man, you know how I was feeling yesterday, man. I was just elated to see what we saw yesterday. To simply put it, like you said, Kyle, with your Aiden McCool tweet, having an outer body experience. That's almost what it felt like watching. I mean, it didn't feel real almost. I mean, it's so different that's the best basketball I've seen a Louisville team play, honestly, I think since probably 2017. I mean, I was thinking about that last night and all day today. I mean, it's been that long. That's what I think.
You never know what tweet's going to take off. And for whatever reason, that Aiden McCool one was the one they hit. A lot of people seem to like that one. Right. Somebody told me it was on the radio this morning. Anyway, Pat, what about you, man?
Man, we are back. That is what is happening. We are back. Basketball at the University of Louisville is back.
It's so good.
It's been a long time, but man, was that pretty last night. And I don't care who the hell it was against. I don't care if we played against my grandmother's lunch bunch. It looked so much better than anything I've seen in a few years. And I'm so excited.
Josh, by the way, Josh was supposed to be on the pod tonight. But again, Josh needs to move. This is Josh Jacobs. He's hanging out in the basement. The vibes are high. PK has us looking like a real college basketball team again. Also good to see Ross on the pod. And that's true. Ross has been out for a bit, so it's good to have him back. And we've all missed him. And I know you guys in the chat have. A lot of you guys have been asking where he's at. But Josh, you got to move, man. Josh lives in Iowa. For those that don't know, it looks like I got to turn Pat's microphone up, so it is too quiet. All right, we're back to about that. Should work. That should help. That being said, Josh has another tornado. I can never live where he lives. I don't understand how a place can have that many tornadoes.
Josh has more tornadoes than points scored last night by U of L.
God or Mother Nature, whatever you believe in, whatever you want to call it, they don't like Iowa. Because I swear, like, the man's got a tornado every other day at his house. So, anyway, but speaking of tornadoes, we got to get into the game last night because it was a whirlwind from the start. An absolute whirlwind from the moment the ball got tipped. Kason Pryor hits a three. I think, okay, I'm going to keep it rational. We're only getting a Sweet 16 after the first three. Then we hit the second three. Now we're going to the national championship and we're winning a fourth. We're going to change it to the Fourth Banner Pod. And by the time we were up like 13-0, I'm like, we're going 40-0. We're not losing the game. So I'm losing my damn mind.
T-shirts, man. Print the T-shirts.
I'm losing my damn mind because all these guys look so good and so in sync. And I said on LSL, I was on LSL earlier tonight. I said, if I was above the arena looking down on it and it was like way up and I just could see the ball probably looked like a pinball just bouncing back and forth, bouncing around, and then going in the hoop. Because, I mean, 38 assists on 43 made field goals is sheer insanity. I don't care if we're playing a youth league YMCA team. I don't care. I'm not going to sit here and say that was a great team we played last night. But what you saw was just, before I get into my like more in-depth thoughts, like what is your biggest takeaway, Pat, from what you saw last night? Your biggest one.
So first off, funny story before I get my biggest takeaway. I was in the office late last night, so I missed like the first 2 minutes of the game. And I turn it on and it says there's 17 and a half minutes left. And that damn score shows 8-0 to the other team. And I'm like, my God, what is going on? We're down 8-0 to this team. What is going on? And then I finally hear one of the announcers say, I don't think they've got the score right down here. It's supposed to be 8-0 Louisville. So a funny little story because I was like, oh my God, is KP coaching? But
yeah.
But
it showed 11-0 the other way. I was like, please let a troll account like a UK burner get on there and share that laughing at us. Please let that be the case.
Yeah. But no, biggest takeaway. I mean, I've got a lot of them, but I'd say my biggest is just the spacing / ball movement that it created. And it was, I mean, the pace was big, and I'm sure somebody will bring up the pace. But even if we played slow, the spacing on the offensive end and where people were situated, how people knew where their spots were on the court, how they knew, what spots they needed to get in, the constant ball movement, the passing up an open shot for a better shot. There was no selfishness on this team. Not one player out there was playing to get his. And that happens during regular season games, especially it's happened the last 2 years. But you expect that even the best teams, you expect in a game like this, a game that doesn't count, a game where it's your first game putting on a uniform, which it was for all of these guys, you expect guys to want to go and get theirs and prove themselves and all that. There was none of that last night. It was constant passing to get the best shot possible. And listen, the competition wasn't out of this world. I mean, I'd say it's better than some teams we lost to exhibition-wise in the last 2 years. But, again, it doesn't matter who we were playing. The way we executed was unbelievable. And it was, I mean, it's like I'm watching something for the first time again. And that's Louisville basketball. Like, I forgot what that looked like. And I'll be honest, it's the best Louisville basketball. And again, I understand the competition, but it's the best Louisville basketball I've seen from an aesthetic standpoint since probably Rick Pitino pressuring a team for, 40 minutes.
Yeah. So Rick Pitino teams, it did give me that vibe due to the tempo and the intensity of the team. Like when a guy would fall down on the court, everybody would run and help him up. I will say the offensive efficiency is not something I ever saw here under Rick Pitino. That does not mean I think PK is a better coach than a top 5 coach of all time. I've made this point on multiple platforms now. I'm just saying in this one game, I felt like we did have that defensive intensity against a much lesser opponent than the Rick Pitino teams that we played against, or the teams that we played against with him as our coach. I mean, so I still, though, just watching it, my impression was like we have that intensity in this one game, and we have a very efficient offense. My biggest takeaway from last night out of all of them is that when you are moving that fast as a team and you're bouncing the ball around like a pinball like that, and everybody knows where everybody's at, when he talks about the power of the unit, or whatever it is that he says. To me, we were one collective mind out there. And the only way you can be one collective mind as a basketball team, especially at that pace, is when you are doing repetition in practice. You're practicing sets, you're practicing drills, you're practicing where to look if you get a double team from a certain spot on the court, where to look as your second and third option. You have had that ingrained within you to the point that it becomes subconscious. You no longer even have to think about it. And that's what I saw last night, was a team that has been well prepared, that has been coached in a way where they are grasping complex systems. When you consider how fast we're moving, it's very complex to make second and third reads at that pace.
Yep.
And they made it look effortless. Now, as the competition gets better, you will see some of that probably not be as easy to execute.
Yep.
But the fact that we're able to do it in July, the way we did it against any team with a group of completely, other than Rain Smith and James Scott, guys he's never coached, guys that haven't had his coaching, the fact that we're already where we're at, that is a compliment to the coaching, to the execution and practice, and to the mentality of the entire team.
Yeah. Well, and think about what you just said too. It's July. We've got players, other than a couple, that have never played together, that, like you said, have never played under this coaching staff. And another caveat is right now for this tournament, we can practice a lot more, but you're limited to a pretty minimal amount of team practice per week. There's individuals and stuff, but this team doesn't get to play with each other under coaching guidance. I'm sure they play a ton of pickup ball, but under coaching guidance, a ton in the summer. And they're new. It's crazy in that short amount of time, with the unfamiliarness that this group should have together, how much of a unit they look like out on the court.
Yeah. I see guys talking about individual. You know what's awesome is when, what's up, Wes? You know what's awesome is when you have a bunch of different guys talking about a bunch of different players that they were hyped about. I've seen comments about Cater Traore's athleticism, jumping off the charts. See Javon Hadley, how he made so many good plays last night. And his performance in particular, I think, gets a little bit lost. You could argue he had the best game. I think he was the leading scorer, and he filled the stat sheet
from the field.
But he plays so smooth that it almost looks effortless, to the point where you might not notice as much as Cater Traore blocking a shot out of left field, or Kason Pryor dribbling between his legs like a guard and driving to the lane and yamming on somebody. James Scott's springs, and then Corin Johnson doing what he did. You could lose what Javon Hadley did last night in all of that, but you could argue he was our best player last night.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a good question. Who do you think impressed you the most last night?
Yeah, I mean it's
individual.
It's a hard question because you look and you look at the box score, you watch the game, and there's a lot of people that impressed. I'll throw, since there's three of us and you can probably throw out 6 names, I'll throw out 2 people, one that's kind of obvious and one that's not obvious. You talked about him. Traore was exactly what I thought he would look like based off of looking at a few games that he played last year and also his stats from last year. He absolutely is like the ultimate glue guy.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in there, he battles. He's not incredibly big, but like some have said in the chat, he's incredibly athletic. He knows where to be to go get a rebound. He's one of those rebounders that shot go up, and he knows where to position himself. He knows where the ball's going to come off the rim. He's got great court vision, made a lot of great passes, and within like 10 feet at his size. Now, again, he's going to be playing against bigger guys, but he's extremely efficient in the paint. So that was my like obvious guy that I was impressed with. My not obvious guy that I was impressed with. And in the first half, I was like, oh man, it's going to be a long season for this guy. He's going to have to truly develop, and he's got a lot of development to do. But man, his confidence level rose in the second half, and he looked really smooth. And that's Connie Roos, man.
Kanai, yeah.
Kanai Roos. He looked like a guy that by year 2, when the light bulb clicks, and maybe at some point this year, he looks like he's
hell. It looked like it clicked the second half, but
Yeah.
I mean, competition withstanding, you know.
He looks like he's got an NBA future.
Yes.
So those were the two guys that really stood out to me. I mean, 2 of the probably 9 guys that I was like, wow.
Ross, who impressed you the most last night? If you had to pick one guy, it's hard.
Well, I mean, the guy that I was most surprised by, Cater's athleticism. I mean, we saw, we've gone through clips of these guys and we've seen what they can do and we've seen how they can impact games. And we saw what Cater did in some big games last season. But seeing him last night, I mean, he looked even more explosive than I think I saw in any clips that I watched of him, leading up to this summer. So I thought that was really, really surprising. That first block he had, I mean, he just like exploded out of the lane. I mean, to me, he's not the same player, obviously not the same size, but those are the types of hops that we saw from Montrez, like freshman, sophomore year, like that's what got Trez put on the map, is that he could explode so off the floor so quickly. And he had a quick second jump. And I see that bounce from Cater. So, or Kadir, I see that, but I'm trying not to steal your thunder, because to me, the most person that stood out was Corin. And I had a feeling that it might get there eventually, but it's there now. Like, so I give you props on putting your hat all in on Corin, because that wasn't a fluke last night. That's a guy that can just ball and go get you buckets. I mean, we thought Terrence Edwards was going to be that guy for us, and I think he still is.
Could be.
No, I think he is going to be that guy, but it's clearly obvious Corin is a guy that can go get you a bucket as well. So, like, he's just a guy. It didn't matter where he was catching the ball in the offense, in the flow of the offense. He was dangerous any like part of the floor. So he was able to break guys down off a dribble really, really quickly. Quick first step, and man, he's going to be a problem, man. We look like we got a team that's like a bunch of guys that are going to be a problem. I mean, talking about Pryor, I was really impressed with his ability to pass in the lane, even, in tight space. That we're so much further ahead than I thought we would be at this time. I didn't expect us to look like this until December. And I can't imagine how much better we're going to be come December if everything is going right, man. I mean, that was so impressive last night. I mean, and everybody's, again, like, we talk about the, the offense. And I've made jokes that we were playing Marvin's Banana and Mango Stand 5, out there last night. But I mean, listen, we were playing shitty basketball teams last year and winning by like 11 and not looking good doing it. That was like a complete ass whipping, and they looked the part last night doing it. That wasn't a fluke. I don't care how bad the competition was. They did anything they wanted to do. I mean, it looked good doing it. I mean, I just, man, it made me feel so good today, dude. I can't get over it.
Josh, I can say that the toaster is locked away in the back of a storage shed, like 5,000 miles, like on the other side of the world right now. It's locked. It's dead bolted. I'm not getting that bad boy out. I can tell
Locked
you
up
that
like
now.
a child in Camp
So,
Davidian.
but I will
KP
say,
took the
I
toaster
too
to
agree.
Fayetteville with him.
I too agree with that Corin for me, and maybe I am. I mean, I've been on Corin. I've been
You've been on it since day one, man.
From the
Day
day
one.
that I saw his highlights at Washington. I remember seeing a game last year where he came off the bench at Washington and lit him up. It was towards the end of the year, and I was like, that would be a great guy to get out of the portal. I remember looking him up. I remember like Googling his name. I think he was a sophomore. And I was like, okay, at that time. And I was like, oh, okay, that guy. And then when I didn't hear anything about him, I kind of forgot all about that. And then all of a sudden, it's like, holy crap. Like, we might get Corin Johnson. So then I really got into the highlights and was like, is this a one-off? Figuring out that he averaged like 18 and a half, 19 points a game that last month of the season really turned it on. And he was struggling with a shoulder injury. So watching him last night, like I started to get nervous because we hear about all these guys all off season. And every single time somebody gives an update on the team, they list all these dudes. And I'm looking for one dude who's never on there, and it's Corin Johnson. I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, this guy must not be doing a damn thing. Is he hurt?
Yep.
Somebody asked last week if he was even still on the team because they couldn't find anything on him. And then I got nervous. I'm like, maybe he's not. Because you know how that goes. Like, you usually don't hear about it. It's just like, you know, they kind of and we have no idea how that works with a PK staff, but some staffs, like a guy's just not around. And then like after a while, you just find out he's not on the team. I was like, well, let's look. And so then we find video where he hit a couple of threes actually. So I felt a little better, but I was like, it was on WDRB's channel, but we haven't heard a damn thing. And then he gets out there last night. And then like, I'm like, no, he's him. He's still him. And he made some plays last night.
Impressive. He was
made
so
one
impressive.
layup that was so contested, but he made a move spinning and did a upsy-do up under him. So, like the freak athleticism to move that fast and be able to do that in control. And then don't even get me started on his lockdown defense. Him and Chucky Hepburn, I know a lot of people aren't big fans of them ever being out there together, but I do think in certain situations, in certain situations, to me, it makes perfect sense to have them out there together. I do think you stagger them a lot for minutes purposes, but there are certain situations where if the guards are going off on the other team or if they're creating a bunch of offense for other players, you put those two out there on the perimeter, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, it just – to hit on what you were saying, to be playing that fast and be so under control, and y'all were, I was listening to y'all while my computer was rebooting and updating. You know, talking about the flow and the tempo of the offense and how everybody moved so fast, and even when they didn't have the ball, they were moving without the ball. Like watching. I don't know if you call that emotion offense or what you call that. I mean, to me, it gave me vibes of like watching a really, I'm a football first guy. So like, to me, it reminded me of watching like a West Coast style offense. Like you're watching guys move and you're making plays before the players are even there. You're anticipating that they're going to be there. And to be able to play that fast and have that kind of trust in your teammates already was pretty incredible. I mean, it just, the frenetic pace reminded me, and I think it reminded a lot of us of a Rick Pitino style team, but it had the execution and fundamentals. Not to say Rick's teams were not fundamentally sound, they were, but that had a fundamental sound of like Denny Crum offenses, like the way they ran offense. It felt like you were really running offense.
Yeah.
And then it was like with this frenetic pace. I mean, in this, it just, everything had purpose last night of what was being done. And they're going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And not to get off topic, but I mean, it's just, God, man, what can or what can't you say?
So I don't want to like. It's like we talk about we thought that had the biggest impact, but like I don't want to like diminish what just about any of these guys did. James Scott has springs and he has an aggressive style on both sides of the court. His offense is clearly limited to being around the perimeter. Thankfully, we don't need him to do much more than that, but he has really good hands and footwork down low to finish those kind of plays. Case and Pryor, especially the way he started, like that guy, I'm like, okay, this guy really is a unicorn. Like, I think he has a
mismatch,
chance,
man.
He has a chance at the NBA. He has to take another step from what he did at South Florida, and he has to take that next step. But I can see a team
foul prone too. He fouls a lot.
Yeah, I can see a team drafting him. I mean, not a lottery pick or anything, but I could see like the skill set he has is unique. I could see him being a second round pick. So I'm hoping he does get drafted. That way we can kind of build some momentum with that.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point. We do need to see, looking ahead, we need to see guys get drafted and getting draft buzz. And I think that they will. I think that as this season goes on, there's going to be a hell of a lot of high school talent that's possibly looking to transfer for an opportunity like a Louisville can give you in the portal. I mean, we're putting the nation on notice as far as, hey, if your guys ain't playing and you want to play here and you're good enough, it's open here for you, man. I mean, we got it.
Man, Josh from the pod sending tornado pics in our group chat. The day after tomorrow is just another Wednesday at Josh's house. Like, you got to move, man. You got
Iowa is God's taint, and God is farting all the time.
Like, that's not a fan of Iowa.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to say that. I'm sorry.
If Ross lived in Iowa, he'd be a meteorologist because of his.
I want to be a meteorologist now.
That's true. So some other guys though that really Javon Hadley, we talked about. He flies under the radar because he just makes the right play all the time. Smooth. I'm pretty sure it was Javon Hadley that. And I don't know who it was, but one of the plays when I rewatched the game, I rewatched it. And oh, by the way, I'm rewatching it again tonight. I'm watching it 3 damn times. That's the great thing about having it on a YouTube stream. You can watch it as many times as you want. So that being said, I think there was a play where moving at the pace they were, Javon Hadley catches it around the free throw line. And he had 2 guys double team him, but it's the coaching things that you want to see when you rewatch. Like, here's how I watch the games. When I first watch, it's happening live and at our pace. It's happening so fast. I can't sit and break it down. Like, I have to duct tape the top of my eyelids to the top of my head because if I blink, I'm going to miss something. Whereas in the KP era, I couldn't stay awake. I'd fall asleep for 20 minutes, wake up, and nothing changed. So it's like a complete 180. Like, you can't even look away to pick up your cup to take a drink. You've missed something. And that happened like 4 times last night where I look up and I'm like, crap, what did I just miss? We've got more points on the board. But on rewatch, I look for the coaching things. And a play that stuck out was when Javon Hadley or whoever it was caught the ball around the free throw line. There's 3 reads, and you have to make the reads. If you get to your 3rd read, you have to make it within a second. So you either take your man to the basket if it's one-on-one, and you have the spacing to do so. If you get doubled or the lane's clogged, you look at the top of the key and you pass it there for your 2nd read. But if that is either not open or the passing window is not there or the double team's coming from that area, you then have the 3rd read in the corner.
Yeah.
Whoever it was, I think it might have been Fats, but I think it was Javon Hadley, catches the ball. The double team comes. He doesn't have an avenue. You can see him look to the top of the key real fast. Wasn't there. Quickly looks over, scoring corners in the corner. Bang, 3 from the corner in the first half. That play just stuck out to me as like, these guys are practicing and they've gotten to the point in July where they're making third reads within a split second. It's second nature to them. And I mean, I know some of that comes from wherever they came from. We've got a roster of experienced guys that have success, but you still have to teach them your style of play. And you still have to make the right reads that PK wants you to make. And I mean, it was just incredible. So Hadley stuck out to me. Fats didn't have the game that we even needed, and he looked good out there, but he kind of flew behind, he was a little bit behind the radar, and he could be the best player on the team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I thought, for one, you've got it's clearly obvious watching these guys play, and you watch highlights and stuff. But getting live game action, you see more. It's clearly obvious that one of the top traits that PK emphasized out on the recruiting trail in the portal was basketball IQ. Because like you said, these guys get it. I thought the most impressive, you talked about one team play, the most impressive thing to me was, and maybe it's because I'm so used to the past 2 years, but the Bahamas team switched to zone, and our team immediately recognized it. We immediately switched up how we aligned our offense.
Yeah.
I think it was Hadley got into the middle of the zone. We immediately got him the ball and started the rotation and started them, recovering with their zone defense, and we picked it apart in quick order. Last year, it took us 5 plays to even realize that the other team was in zone half the time. So I thought that was huge, and it just showed the IQ of this team and the veteran presence of this team and how much basketball these guys have actually played, even though they haven't played a ton together. You all highlighted some guys that, and you said a lot about them. There's some things that, like on Corin Johnson, I knew this guy could score. I knew this guy could play defense. But man, he's a hell of a passer. Mm-hmm. He's got great court vision. I think he had 9 assists. And he gets in there and rebounds. He's not afraid to go in there and rebound the ball. He kind of reminds me in that aspect of a Terry Rozier, Donovan Mitchell when they were here attacking the defensive boards.
Yeah.
So that was impressive on his part. I thought that prior, I think he's a little bit foul prone. He's going to have to work on that if he wants to, stay in games. But his court vision, and I'm not talking about like his court vision setting other people up, but his court awareness is probably the better word, of knowing where to be on the court, be in the best position to affect the play positively, especially on the offensive end, was incredible. I mean, listen, every time he got the ball, it was in a position where he either had an open shot, could make a quick pass for an open shot, or go off the dribble to create an open shot for himself or somebody else. I thought his court awareness was top notch, man. It was incredible. These guys, I mean, there's not much bad you can say. The free throw shooting was not good. And I wish Rain Smith would have made more of his open threes, but these guys are conditioning a lot every day. So there's going to be some bad shooting nights at this point of the year because they're not only practicing, they're lifting weights almost every day. But other than that, I can't really complain about hardly anything.
I mean, right. I mean, they they over exceeded expectations. I don't know how they couldn't have, sitting there watching that last night. I don't know how you could be a fan and be conditioned to what we've seen the past 3 years or even longer, and just say, wow, that team didn't look the part. I mean, there's no way. I mean, that's a tournament team. That is a top 25 basketball team, and there's that's being modest. I mean, there's a lot of, obviously there's an entire season still to play out, but there's some things that you see. And I talked about it last night on one of the spaces on Twitter, like, and you were hitting on it, I think, too, just a little bit there, Pat. You're talking about Pryor and his awareness. I think every single player has that on the floor. Every single player has that court awareness of knowing where everybody's going to be. And like I was hitting on earlier, like, everything has purpose. You were talking about Pryor seeming to get to the spots that would affect the play most positively. Like, the little things, they move with purpose. There's no wasted movements, and everything has a purpose, and it's been taught, and it's already been ingrained, and you can see it. And that's good coaching. 2, that's good coaching that is actually getting through to a team. That's a coaching staff that knows how to get through to their players. And 3, that's a team that is accepting that coaching and is accepting what the coaches are telling them. So, like, you have a very cohesive unit in that, in those 3 aspects already. One of the things that impressed me the most last night, you would see us turn the ball over. We would, they would get out in transition. It didn't happen very much, or they would score, and the other team would turn their back to start running back the defense. Boom. We're already passing the ball up to, like, where you go to check in, and then it's another pass, and the ball's already in the corner over on our side of the court to score. You know what I'm saying? Like, 2 passes, and it's like it's a second and a half, maybe 2 seconds tops. It's 2 passes, and you're right there. You're already setting up offense, and their defense isn't even set.
Yeah,
like,
it's very UNC-esque, man. That's what UNC has done ever since Roy Williams took over.
Right. And like what you're saying too, like, one thing that UNC was always very, very good at, especially like when they had guys like Kennedy Meeks and guys like that, Kennedy Meeks was a great passer, even better than Armando Bacot in that regard, in my opinion. But, like, Kennedy Meeks, gather a defensive rebound, boom, outlet pass, boom, it's already to half court, boom. Like everything has purpose. It moves so fast, and it's so well coached, and that is going to and you're looking at our team, we're a legit at least 9 players deep, 10 players. We're deep as hell. Like,
when we didn't even see Waterman last night.
I know, and I wanted to get into that. He's the guy I was most curious about last night.
Same here.
Because they're like Coach Kloman and guys like that leading up to this Bahamas trip have been dropping little nuggets about what a dog Waterman is. Like, he is always on the floor scrapping for the ball. He's doing all the little, like, those are good things that you like to hear. They're like just little nuggets. So
he's apparently been dominating on offense too.
Yeah,
apparently doing things they didn't think he could do.
I've been excited to hear or to see how he's going to look. So hopefully we get to see him tomorrow at noon. But
I think we will.
Yeah, fingers crossed, man, because I've got big hopes for him. I just think there's so many guys right now that they're so much better than I think any of us really could have thought maybe they were going to be. And we're so deep. Like, it's going to be extremely important for this staff to be able to put together rotations that work really, really well together. And there's a lot that goes into that. Like some players are okay with coming off the bench. Some players, like they're going to have to be able to fill all that out. I have a lot of trust in them just based on what we've already seen in one game. But two, being able to balance those rotations and those minutes and then also be able to auger them and adjust them based on the opponent you're playing and noticing what some players have better skill sets than others to be able to exploit the other team's weaknesses, so like it's a really good problem to have, like I was saying last night, but it's not an enviable position. Like the coaches are going to have to really, really work hard to recognize that stuff. They're going to have to put in a lot of scout tape. And, I feel great about where we're at. The players reacting that positively this soon is a great sign of what kind of coaching staff we have. So it is a very, very good sign.
So Ty makes a point that nobody's really even talked about Chucky, because there were just so many eye-popping, but Chucky did what Chucky needed to do. He had lockdown defense and distributed the ball and hit a couple of big shots.
No turnovers.
So that's exactly what I was hoping to see.
I didn't know that. No turnovers?
No turnovers. He's smooth as butter, man. Chucky's another one that kind of falls into the Javon Hadley type of player where if you look really smooth and effortless doing something, you almost take it for granted. But he was another one that did really well out there. And I mean, I don't know, guys. I'm really excited for the possibility. I'm thinking Noah Waterman might play tomorrow. He was participating in practice on a video today that I saw. I'm hoping, man. I mean, because again, once this is over, we're waiting until November before we see anything. So
November or October? It's November?
I don't. Maybe there's like a game at the very end of October, an exhibition. I don't know exactly. I know the first regular season game is Monday, November 4th.
Wow.
So I would love to see Waterman come out there and play really well.
Yeah.
I would love to see it, man, because I think he can do some things. He can handle the ball in a way that people are going to be surprised at his size that he can do.
Yeah.
Like maybe not quite like Case and Pryor does, but not far off from it.
Honestly, I think what you're hitting on, I think he's probably got some better guard skills than even Case and Pryor does. I think he's more of that kind of like more of a wing player from what I've seen when he was at BYU. I mean, and kind of how he carries himself. I think he's got more of that wing mentality than he does that he's a big man,
Yeah.
So I think he's very comfortable out there on the perimeter. I think he's got a good handle. So it'll just be very, very interesting. Hopefully, like you said, we get to see him. Kyle, you were touching on, that sounds terrible. You were hitting on Edwards. That sounds also bad.
This is getting worse.
Yeah. We were talking about Edwards earlier and how like he had a very like kind of for him a quiet game.
Yeah.
To me,
he had some big plays.
Yeah, like he did. But to me, he's got such high expectations, both probably from himself, the coaching staff, and from the fans. Like he looks like maybe he's going to be the guy that's going to possibly at this time, just after one game, you're just making very early assumptions. He might be the guy who's used to being the guy, and he's going to maybe require the possible maybe longer time to adjust to what kind of team he has around him to find exactly when it is his time to assert himself and come into his own. Like he's never had a team like this deep around him. You know what I mean? So like there's going to be some filling out there, but again, looking at how much all these guys trust one another and they play so well with one another, like I don't think it'll be very long. I think there will be games, obviously, I don't think in the Bahamas, but there's going to be games early in the season where we're going to need him to step on the gas, and it'll be there. Like he's just that type of player. You know what I mean? Like when it comes time, it'll be there. And I think that the team the rest of his teammates will know, they'll see it. When anybody that's ever played any sort of organized sports, there's always been somebody that's on your team. You can tell when they get cooking, you let them go. Like, you make sure that they're touching the ball. So
and I thought he played within the offense last night. I never thought it was like Terrence is trying to get his. He played within the offense.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like he just looked like he was just kind of he was playing within the offense and not trying to get his. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. But there will be times where we're going to need him to do that. There, no doubt about it.
So two final takeaways I had from the game last night as far as the players themselves and the way the team worked together. Rain Smith, despite the fact that he had a bad shooting night, continued to shoot as if he never missed, which I like to see that because that tells me he doesn't let it get into his head. At least he didn't show any signs of that to me. I didn't see any hanging of his head. I did see once where he finally made one where he kind of had a sigh, like finally, but like he kept shooting. It was like every single time he shot it was a shot that he thought was going to go in. And the even more impressive part of it to me was that his teammates continued to look for him to get him shots. So there was never any wavering of confidence from the team nor himself, which just tells me that he's going to be just fine. It'll be like a Luke Hancock type of thing where hopefully not as long, because it took Luke a good 10 games or maybe even more before he really got into shooting good from behind him. But once he started cooking, man, we all know that, I mean, hopefully it'll be quicker than that. But the second big thing is Kenai Roos, man. I'll tell you what, PK's recruiting for the 2025 high school class in particular, Kenai Roos has the ability to be a pro now within 2 years, but possibly after one, possibly. Now, it would all have to come together. Like the game would have to slow down, which the scary thing is I feel like the game started slowing down in one half. Like the first half, you could see some of the potential, but you could see him thinking about it, and therefore he stepped out of bounds once because it just took him a half second to really realize what he was doing. He had another play where he tried to drive into the lane, and he made a good move, but then he kind of hesitated, and so he missed a layup. And those little moments where you have to think about it can change everything, because like basketball, especially at the pace that PK runs it, is a game of split seconds. So with Kenai Roos in the second half, you could already see the game starting to slow down. You could see him making moves that he wasn't quite executing quite as smoothly and efficiently. If you can get this guy to really have it sink in to where against high-level competition, he has the best skill set of anybody on the whole freaking team.
Yep.
Like, I'm not saying he'll be our best player. I'm saying he has the highest ceiling, and there's some guys on the team with high ceilings. So if you can get a really productive season out of Kenai Roos this year, especially next year, and he goes to the NBA within 2 years, that's just going to help us a lot.
I
found
found that
I loved most about Kenai is he's got confidence, man. And that you're right that there was times where he was thinking instead of doing, which is normal for a freshman. But it's also normal for a freshman to lose confidence when they start 1 of 7. But he was confident that whole game, just as Rain was confident when he missed, his first 7 threes or whatever it was. Kenai was confident to continue to attack the basket and shoot jumpers, which can kill you in certain spots. But I'm happy to see that from a freshman, especially in a game like this, man.
Well, and one final thought I really had too, the final thought of all of it was there are a few teams now that are practicing the 5 out. It's not just PK. I know Josh Schertz is one. He's at St. Louis now. That was another guy we were looking at. He does a 5 out. The most famous example of it is probably Nate Oates at Bama. He runs a lot of that 5 out. Here's what I think could possibly separate PK from other guys. I think the system's going to become more popular in college basketball, but there is nobody that is going to match the energy of Pat Kelsey. Nobody. Not Nate. I'm not saying he'll be better than Nate Oates. I think Nate Oates is the best head coach recruiter in the country right now. I don't think there's a better. I'm not saying he's the best head coach. That's obviously the guy in Stores, but I think he's the best recruiter.
I
And he's a
also
really
think
good
that's
coach.
based on just him finally making a Final Four. I mean,
that did it.
I mean, it definitely helps that resume. Before that, we were all looking like, can he be the
I'm
guy?
just talking about recruiting, but even before the Final Four, I'm looking at their class coming in. I'm looking at their transfer class. I mean, if you look at these boys are stacked. But anyway, my point is with PK, what separates him from these other guys doing the 5 out is his energy. His teams are going to be consisting of guys that match that energy, because if they don't, they're not going to fit his culture. And his whole culture, each strategy for lunch, the power of the unit, all those things he likes to say. Our teams are going to pack a punch and an energy level that even Alabama and other teams of like ilk who are running that system, they might not be able to match that. Now, Alabama's talent makes up for that in a lot of ways, and then some. So I'm not saying we're ready to beat Alabama tomorrow, but I'm saying as the years go on and as PK develops this program and if he can get recruiting up to par, I think he's got an it factor that these other coaches don't, because I've never seen somebody that just does not run out of energy ever.
Well, the team didn't run out of energy either.
He freaking sleeps energetically, if he sleeps at all.
I'm going to tell you, I mean, and he's still like this, okay? But he's more of a throwback to the old regime in that regard. But that's kind of how Rick Pitino got his movement and got that UK job, is that he was this young, energetic coach that players enjoyed playing for, that noticed the difference in what he was bringing. And he proved to be a good recruiter once he was able to get that next level of platform to perform on. Right. And that's it. We all said it, like, in the off season, we were like, this is not a great time to be making coaching hires. There's just like, you've got a lot of Hall of Fame coaches going out. There's not a lot of great proven coaches out there that you're going to be able to lure away, and you're going to have to roll the dice on a guy and find that guy. And it looks like Josh Hurd is found it. I mean, really found it. And, he wasn't some of our first picks. That's fine. It didn't matter. It didn't matter, because
I only knew one Twitter account that was like picked him first. And I want to say it was I can't think of his name. Bill Sports Live, maybe. I might have the wrong guy.
Yeah, I mean,
think it was him.
It doesn't
Other than that, like, none of us.
Like, I'll be honest, like, he was so far down on my list, and I was upset, man. But once he was in this job, he had the job, he got the press conference, and then you saw how this guy immediately started going and working, and it was night and day from what we saw from the last staff. Like, it immediately caught my eyes and everybody. I got noticed, you know what I'm saying? And then you just started seeing it. And then you started seeing how he was using the resources that U of L has from all different angles and using that to put a roster together. And I was like, man, like, if you want to sit there and keep hating on a guy like this that's working his ass off for this school and for the name of Louisville and the city, then you're being stubborn and putting your head in the sand. And that's why it was important for me to have the post that I had rebuttaling what I had to say. So I couldn't be more happy that Pat Kelsey is our guy.
Yep.
This is gonna work. I'm so like everybody saw it, man. Like we're so there, we're so back. Like it feels so good, man. I mean, damn it, it feels so good. It feels so good.
Pat, you got any final thoughts before we transition to football?
Yeah, I'll kind of expand on what you were saying, Kyle. You know, what can differentiate Pat Kelsey and his teams? Because, you know, Pat Kelsey plays analytical basketball, new age basketball. You shoot threes and you shoot baskets, you know, or attempts close to the basket. But to your point, that's what all the new coaches are doing. That's
It's
what's
still
been
weird to me.
successful with the NATOs and the you know, at Connecticut with Danny Hurley. But I think one thing this team and I think teams at Charleston did this with less talent is Pat Kelsey has teams that have the depth that go 10 deep, so he can constantly rotate players in. And that energy you were talking about is not just from him, but it's constantly on the court with the players. And because of their conditioning and the fact that you have that depth, that is a difference maker with the style of basketball that he's playing.
Yeah,
and I think that's what can differentiate his teams here at Louisville from some of these other teams. Your Bahamas, who are extremely talented, but I just like, listen, I don't know everybody's roster, but I find it hard to believe that the quality of depth that we have can be matched by a lot of teams out there.
Yeah, I'm with you. Who and I'm drawing a blank right now, but who is the strength and conditioning coach on this? I know he's gotten a lot of praise.
Foy.
Foy. Those guys are in shape.
Eli Foy, yeah.
Like they're in
Eli Foy.
They're in functional shape. They're in functional basketball shape. Like when the term was released, I can't remember who it was, if it was Coach Kloman and they said he's a secret weapon for this staff. He's a secret weapon, man. Like he has them. These guys are in great shape. And, you know, it's one thing to go out there and be, you know, strong and bulky and big, or be very lean and be able to run and but they just don't look like they look physically sound, both from a stamina standpoint, speed, you know, God, man. I mean, just the explosion factor, but also like the brute strength inside. Like again, we're playing a Bahamas team, but like we look strong. Like the guys look really strong. Like it's very rare where you find a basketball team that's conditioned in a way to where they have that ability to be very strong, but also peak stamina and burst and explosion and speed. And they seem like they just have all of that. Like all the guys seem like they're in just great conditioning shape.
Yeah, so, Ross, I don't know if you've seen it, and for our listeners, this is a great video, and it kind of gives you a little behind the scenes of Coach Foy and what the players have been doing this summer. But that Cardinal commitment,
I think I saw that
they have on Twitter. I think it was episode 2, about 10 to 15 minutes, and it really concentrates on Coach Foy and his process, and gives you some insight into what the players have been doing this summer.
Yeah, and how he was taking them outside and working them. And, he's like a lot of these players. And he talked about it too, you know, he just to expand a little bit further on that video, he talked about how, you know, he had a lot of upperclassmen on this team. He knew he had a lot of players with a lot of experience coming in, and he's still going to have to break them right?
Mhm.
And he's like, you had some guys coming in here thinking that they knew what to expect, and he's like, it's my job to break them and get them to that point to where, you know, they stop thinking about how they're going to get through it, and then they just start doing it. They start exploding through it, and they start feeling their bodies. And it's like last night I saw a lot of players that just had a shit they had a shit ton of confidence in what they were doing. Not just basketball IQ, you know, coaching, physical presence. Like it was there. Like again, everything just seemed to have purpose last night. It just fit.
Please, guys, if you are listening for the first time or you're a frequent listener and have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to the channel, Third Banner Pod. We are on here. We try to be on here every single Wednesday. We also do Friday episodes. And please like this video so it spreads in the algorithm so we can share the wealth of Pat Kelsey's first game in the Bahamas. Our thoughts, your all's thoughts from the chat. Great times indeed. So please like, please subscribe. That being said, let's transfer to football, which is also something to be optimistic about. There's some interesting things with football. I guess I'll start with it. It was the first day of training. We'll get into the ACC expectations because I know that was a big thing today as well. But we did have the football news that, you know, training camp starts today. I don't have a whole lot because it's been one day.
Right.
I didn't get a lot of information. I did look at, and so I don't want to I took the content that I got from Matt McGavick on from the Pink Seats, the State of Louisville podcast for football. Shout out to those guys. If you don't follow from the Pink Seats, the State of Louisville, like YouTube, I don't remember if their YouTube channel is separate from the Pink Seats or if it's all under the State of Louisville. But follow those guys. Look up From the Pink Seats. He had a good breakdown of what he saw today at practice. Before I get into it, did you guys get a chance to see anything about practice before I get into what they talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to see a ton. I am planning on and hoping on going to some open practices this year. But I did see it mentioned a few times on Twitter that people were really impressed with our D-line depth, that we had guys like Perrier in playing it with the third deep and stuff.
Yeah.
And when, I mean, he's a talented dude that has been very good for us. And when you've got him playing with the three deeps, you've got some depth up the middle. They did say, the person who wrote this tweet did say there is a little bit of a concern behind Ashton, but other than that, the depth on the D line was incredible.
Well, it's funny you'd say about the D line because I know I heard McGavick, like I said, from the Pink Seats. He said a guy that really surprised him was Renee Conga, the defensive lineman that came from Rutgers, who I guess he was running some drills with the starters. And at one point, Tyler Shuck threw the ball, and this dude like jumped up and one-handed snagged an interception. And apparently that was like the play of the day, but he had some other plays as well. So there's a name that I didn't expect to hear. I actually had to remember who he was, to be completely transparent, because just not a famous name. The popular belief still seen, and we have heard this throughout spring and even this offseason in the summer workouts. Ja'Cory Brooks sounds like he might be the best receiver on this team. And I know those guys on there had said he had a really good day today, and that there was no doubt in their mind that he was the best receiver right now on this roster, which
awesome to hear.
Colin Lacey out there, and of course you got Chris Bell returning. That's pretty high praise.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's more about what he's doing and not about what those guys aren't doing, the way they were talking about it. I guess there were a lot of overthrows today. They did bring that up, but that's to be expected on day one. So that's a big thing, is that there was a couple of times where Ja'Cory was down the field and they launched it, which is kind of wild to hear because Ja'Cory Brooks was not a downfield threat at Alabama, even in his years where Bryce Young was slinging it to him. He was a possession receiver who could make yards after the catch and create a lot of those, but he wasn't a deep threat. So
Right, yeah.
I obviously wasn't there, but my understanding was he had a couple of times where he had a deep route and they threw it to him and they just missed him, but that he was pretty wide open. He got separation. So those were the biggest things I got. Apparently, Ashton Gelati still looks like that dude. That's not very surprising, but it's good to hear that he's continuing to improve despite how good he already was. And that's all I really got out of it since it's day one. And I obviously wasn't there, so I have to go off of. And that's the only stuff I could find. And I know McGavick does a great job. He has his notepad and he goes out there and makes all of his notes. But we'll see in the upcoming days, I guess.
Yeah,
But those were the biggest takeaways, I think.
I'm curious to hear, what. Again, I'm an Adonijah Green day one believer since last year. I would like to hear that he's gotten his weight up and he's gotten stronger. You're talking about depth, behind Ashton. Like he's if you got concerns there, that's also an opportunity for players to step up, and you're looking for underclassmen to make those jumps, step up into those holes. And somebody like Adonijah with his ability is the type of guy that could step into a role like that. So looking for guys like him, looking for TJ Capers' name to start kind of coming up. Hopefully we start hearing some buzz about him. I really would like. It's probably not indicative of anything because I think he's going to be a player regardless. But we've talked about him ad nauseum. But Thor, you want to hear some good things about Thor and him.
It sounds like he needs to get back in game shape after having them.
Yeah.
So I'm with you, and to the listeners, I think some of us are planning on getting together and going down and seeing practices when we can. So we're going to be trying to get in there and give you insight any way that we can. So good things to come. We're back here. We're in. We're right here at the cusp of like the very beginning of fall sports season is like coming hot and heavy. It's like coming, like we're right there. We survived the doldrums of summer and, some of us had, a lot of stuff going on. Ty had a baby and, just a lot of us have had some stuff going on. So sorry for the, maybe I don't want to say lack of the inconsistency in episodes like you've been used to, but it just kind of was what it was. So, but we're back, baby.
Sports. Josh, the concerns weren't with Ash. They were saying that there could be concerns about the depth behind Ashton when Ashton has to go out, which of course Mason Rieger being out for the year, it sounds like that's a big part of that. Obviously Tyler Barron, what happened with him on the other side. And so then we got his name escapes me. His name escapes him, but the kid out of USF, we got him in there. But I could see where there's some concerns behind Ashton in particular, and then also on that other edge spot. That's actually a position I really want to watch.
I'm still holding out hope for Mason. Maybe, just maybe, we'll be lucky and we'll get to see.
That'd be nice. I wouldn't bet on it, but that'd be nice.
And again, I'm another one. Day one, Mason Rager, day one believer right here. That dude is just a football player, man. Just a football player. God, it
since
sucks.
We don't have a whole lot to talk about with one day of training camp, but it's just like that's the initial things I got from the Pink Seat guys. Like I said, if you guys want more in depth, I actually didn't get to even watch the entire episode. I had to be on LSL at 8, and I'm just cramming time between getting home from work, being on there, being on here, and trying to figure out what the heck happened in football. So I listened about 15, 20 minutes of it, and it was good stuff. But they talked about it for longer than that. So I'd suggest checking that out after our episode, of course. But the one thing they did say, football related, and I've seen a lot about it on social media and a lot of opinions. And before I share mine, I'm curious. They have us projected to finish 5th in the ACC. We did not get a single first place vote. Teams like Boston College got a vote. I believe Virginia Tech got a few votes.
Cal got 2 votes.
Cal got 2 votes. California. And so, what are y'all's thoughts?
California.
What are y'all's thoughts on the ACC preseason rankings?
Hang it up in the locker room because it's absolute bullshit.
And it's good locker room material.
Inspire this team, man. I mean, what has NC State done to be ranked above us? No offense. I mean, Miami's there every year, so that's just to be expected. Everybody thinks Miami's going to be back to the 90s again, and then they.
I think they're going to be good this year with Cam Ward.
For the
Cam Ward's
the ACC, I hope Miami is good for our schedule and that game at home. I hope they're good, but I don't think they're better than us.
I mean,
Clemson and Florida State, I can understand. But, NC State is complete crap. And Virginia Tech having 5 first-place votes. What?
I don't understand the Virginia Tech love. They've been getting hyped all offseason.
I don't understand it.
What am I
told
missing?
I told you last year that Drones. I told y'all Drones was a hell of a player last year. We were on this pod and we were coming into that game, and I said I'm really worried about this Drones kid. And we had a damn good game, and we had a good game plan for him. But that kid, I'm telling you, that kid is gonna be he's gonna be a effing baller this year, dude.
Well,
he's gonna be effing good.
And that kind of leads me to my take on. I thought I'd be asked about tonight on LSL, but we didn't get to it. Probably because I was ranting about UK fans too long. But he brought up that topic, and I could spend all day roasting those guys. So that being said, I don't know where to project us this year, guys. I have a hard time with it. I feel like there's a lot of people that are like, we should be a top 2 ACC team, definitely top 3 at worst. I'm having a hard time because of how many – it's hard for me to get a real read on when you have the amount of turnover we're having, which I'm not getting into that conversation. I'm just saying it's hard for me to project year to year when you turn over so many portal guys. A bunch of people leave. They either enter the portal, they go pro, they graduate, whatever the case may be. And then you also have a new haul of portal guys that you bring in. It's hard for me to know exactly what we're working with. And I think our schedule this year is tough compared to last year. I feel like we were gifted last year with an easy schedule, with the way the home games lined up, with the way it worked out. I expect Miami to be better this year. I do worry about Boston College with Castellanos. I think that guy is a lot like – I'm not saying he'll be as good as – I don't know why his name is escaping me. Kyler Murray. I'm not saying he'll be as good as Kyler Murray was, but he's got a lot of that in his game.
He does.
And
he was impressive last year. Yes, I agree.
That dude scares me. And Georgia Tech's a team that they gave us hell in game 1. Then they fell off for a little bit, but by the end of the year, they were looking really good. And then you've got a couple trap games in there. Like I'm looking at that Stanford game and the time that it starts, the way it follows up, the game right before it. I just see a lot. And then, of course, at Clemson, at UK, teams we've been struggling with for a while now, Clemson in particular. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I'm not saying we're going to be bad, but I literally could see us being anything from 7-5 to 10-2. I don't know. That's a big variance.
I mean, that's why I think it was important. Like when the line, I don't know what it's at recently, but preseason. But I mean, the line, the over under was set at like 8.5. I mean, I'm taking the over all day on that. Like I think we get 9 wins this year. I really do. the talent upgrade is in the depth is night and day better this year. The message and the coaching staff hasn't changed. So then you're looking at, well, is this team going to be able to accept and receive that message and that from that coaching staff the same way that the team did last year? I think you got enough holdover from last year to this year that message is going to correspond and transcend into this year. So yeah, the schedule's tougher, but I think we've got better talent and we've got guys that are going to rise to the occasion. Like I got a lot of belief in that. So to me, I'm somewhere between 9-3 and 10-2. And when you're looking at the ACC, that's good enough to be top 4 in the conference. I don't want to say pretty easy, but that should be top 4 in the conference. You know what I'm saying? So there might be a swing game here and there. Somebody like an NC State, like those games are going to be extremely important. You gotta win those games.
I feel like we got a lot of teams that are like good, maybe not great, and so you just have to hope we're great.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like
to overcome that. I think the ACC is going to be better this year. I don't think they're going to have a bunch of great teams at the top, but I think the teams that weren't good at all last year are going to be decent, and the teams that were good but not great, I think, have the chance. A couple of them have a chance to take that next step. And
yes, I think the overall talent in the ACC, like the level of competition of the team and how good they are is going to be better in the middle this year. You're going to see, because I think the ACC has made some good coaching hires. I think that's been pretty obvious to see over the past couple of years. I think there's been some good coaching hires, and you've got programs that have been kind of mediocre, and they're kind of coming around into their own, being better than they normally have been, like a Duke. Georgia Tech, there was a lot of promise there, like you said last year, like Boston College showing promise. Like, you've got teams like that are kind of meh. Like, they're definitely not going to be pushovers. You got to come and win those games.
I don't SMU. SMU was a good ad, man.
Yeah.
And plus now they can legally buy players, anybody they want. We know they got deep pockets, Pony Express. I mean, so
I think
I agree. I think the level of competition is definitely risen in the ACC this year. It's going to be up.
You think we're ranked too low, or you think I don't know, you think we can have a year like we had last year despite what could be a harder conference, or do you just think the conference probably isn't what we think it is?
I think the potential's there to have a season like last year. I think, like you said, the schedule's harder. My biggest issue with this preseason media poll, I don't like being 5th behind Miami and NC State, but my bigger issue is if you look at the point tally, it's a separation between us and 4th place NC State. We're, 330 points behind NC State. And Virginia Tech's only 20-something points behind us. SMU's only 200 points behind us. It's like, the cutoff between the top 4 in these media people's opinions and below that, there's a big gap. And to me, based off of what we did last year, what Brohm proved as a head coach, the guys we brought back from that team, and we brought back 2 All-Americans in Ashton Gelati and Quincy Riley, and then the guys, the talent we added, the only position talent-wise, now you have to see it on the field, but the only position talent-wise where I think there's a possible downgrade in talent is running back. Other than that, I think we got better at every position from last year to this year.
Yeah,
so, I agree with that.
And the depth is better. And the depth is better.
Maybe linebacker.
maybe I'm pumped about our linebackers this year.
I am too.
Stan Quan's a beast. I mean,
because a lot of
TJ
our young
Quinn's a
linebackers were young.
Yeah, I guess I'm wrong. TJ Quinn's a beast. Stan Quan's we're fine. Yep. Never mind. I'm with you, Pat. Running back. Running back's it.
I find it hard to believe that going from the ACC championship game, even with our schedule, listen, do I think we were the second best team in the ACC last year from a talent standpoint? Maybe not. But going from that and then upgrading everywhere, and now we're projected fifth. These other teams must have gotten a hell of a lot better too, because it just doesn't add up.
I really need to do a deep dive into Virginia Tech football because they've apparently they've got a politician running for office that's really gotten in good with somebody, or they've really actually got a good squad. Because I'm not understanding the love for Virginia Tech. I'm missing something here.
We did not get the benefit of the doubt from making the push with a first-year coach and a new roster, you know, that you would have thought we would have coming into this year. And that's fine, because I'll tell you what, I will take a Brohm coach team flying under the radar and being coached as the underdog all day, every day, like the team being disrespected with this kind of talent. I think they're going to make media people eat their words. Okay. Yeah. So, and you know, the message, I mean, I think Brohm did a great job today, you know, kind of capping it off. Like first practice yesterday, he's in the Bahamas, right? Him and his family are in the Bahamas watching the basketball team. They're like all business today. First day of practice of fall camp. What is his message? Crank it up. It's time to crank it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like, we realized that we made a jump last year, but it's time to take it up a level this year. It's time to go up. And so, like, you've got enough continuity from last year, and you've got enough guys of talent that you brought in this year. We should see that rise from this football team, and I expect to see it. I'm just such a believer in this staff and what we're going to see, and I believe in the talent that we have. Maybe it's red tinted glasses a little bit, man, but I'm telling you, yeah, everything has risen this year, but we're rising too. Like we are going to be trendsetters this year. We're not moving with the pack. Again, we are going to set a pace this year because it is going to be demanded day one, and it is being demanded day one.
Yeah, and listen, and I hope we don't ever have to reach out to one of these people to have them on the pod to preview Cal or Boston College. But if you're one of the two people that voted Cal #1 or Boston College #1, you should have your credentials revoked because you're a clown.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that's I mean, let's be honest. Like, how could you, in God's name, how could you give a first place vote to either one of those teams realistically?
I have the kind of sense of humor that I would do it just to piss people off. I mean, I have that kind of humor.
It's so asinine.
And I'm guessing
it's so asinine. It
has
to,
whoever
it
did
has
it,
to feel like
did
trolling,
it just
right?
so people like us would be like, what the, you know, I bet they were laughing, like picturing like random, they were like, I know how to piss everybody off. Let me take one of these new teams that just joined the conference from Beverly. Let's take the one from Beverly Hills. Let's take those boys. Let's take the ones from Berkeley. 3 hours time difference. Let's put them in first place and let's watch everybody react.
See, I think that could be true, but I also think it's probably media guys that get to vote that are really fans, which is why it's going to be awkward when, you know, Kyle's like, let's bring on a Cal guy to preview that game 2 years from now. Or
Cal brings on Cal.
And we reach out to the guy and he's like, No, well, that Pat guy on your thing called me a clown. There's no way I'm coming over
Here's the
there.
problem. We're not ever going to have a guest from Cal because they'll be eating dinner at 6 o'clock and we'll be on
That's
this
true.
pod.
That's true.
It's a joke. The whole thing's a freaking joke.
I know, but they're so. Listen, I don't know, man. Californians are laid back. You know, maybe they're just on a different time schedule, and they don't do dinner at 5, 6 o'clock like Midwest Southern people do. You
So,
know,
boys, we get the Calgary Dinos. Apparently, they're pronounced Dinos, not Dinos. So we get them tomorrow, noon. I think we're going to end it tonight. We've talked about a lot of good stuff. We're going to wrap it up. Just give me one quick thing you guys want to see tomorrow. Pat.
I'll go first.
Oh, Ross.
So Pat Kelsey said that in going into our game yesterday, I think it was, that if Calgary had been in the NCAA this past year, they would be the 6th ranked team in three-pointers made. Going, in that season. So what I'm looking for, I want to see us make more 3-pointers than them tomorrow. If that's their thing, I want to see us beat them at it. Okay. But I want to see us beat them at it, but also beat them at their game while playing within our offense and doing what we do based on the limited amount of game tape we've seen. That's what I want to see tomorrow. I want to see us make more 3-pointers than them and not only make more 3-pointers, but also make a higher percentage of 3-point shots than them.
Pat.
I mean, I think the easy answer is I want to see Noah Waterman.
Yeah.
But the more thought-provoking answer is, listen, we played unbelievable basketball yesterday. I don't expect the same efficiency as that game, but I want to continue to see the same ball movement, the same shot selection, the same quality of shots that I saw in game 1, because that will give me the extra confidence that that's going to be a regular thing on a game-to-game basis.
Mine's kind of similar to that. I want to see us with a good strategy like what we had in the other game, and I want to see the energy and execution to be as crisp despite a better team. I want to see that remain, because the last thing we want is to have a pod like this and to have like the feelings of energy and go out there and drop an L tomorrow. Like, yeah. I'm going to be honest, that would just piss me off, and it doesn't count. So like I get over it quickly, but it would bring back some of those old wounds like from the previous. So after we saw yesterday, I don't think it will, Ross. I'm just saying that's what I expect. I expect the energy, the intensity, the focus, and the game plan, the strategy. I expect all of that to carry over, and we may not blow those guys out by 40 or 50 points. I don't think we will, to be honest. But as long as we can show a significant upgrade, I will be very, like, as far as like we're clearly the better team at the end of the day and we have the better coach team, I will be happy, get the W, build on that momentum. And I think that's also very important. I'll end it on this. I think it's important to close strong tomorrow because season tickets are on the line. You know, you're trying to get people reinvigorated. I think the interest is already there, but getting the commitment of season ticket holders, some of them are still probably on the fence and still probably have some PTSD or some PKSD, some not Pat Kelsey, but post-Kenny stress disorder. So that, and then of course you had Mac before him who ran the 5-second offense, I called it. Let the shot clock get to 5, chuck it with fresh Kimball from the top of the key, 30 feet beyond, 30 feet from the basket, brick, and try it again. And this time we're going to bring up I forget the guy's name. It was another one of those grad transfers, not the guy out of Marshall, but there was somebody else that hardly ever played. But anyway, people still have like trauma from that, and they're still kind of on the fence. This game tomorrow, if you can close strong after what we saw last night, you're going to get more season tickets. You're also going to see, and you're already starting to see it, the 502 Circle is going to get more donations. They got more right after that game. I saw them send out a tweet saying that they're getting more. Thank you all for all the new members. We got to keep building, baby. That being said, 12 o'clock, some of us will be at work. I'll have my laptop positioned in my office where I can put my phone like in the corner of it and kind of watch as I'm doing my assessments. But with that being said, I want to thank you all for coming on here. Feel free to like and subscribe. Like the video so it helps spread it to the algorithm. Subscribe if you haven't already and like the content you hear. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Third Banner Pod. I'm going to end it with a Go Cards.
Let's go.
Go Cards, go Kroger, and Noah Waterman. Bring it tomorrow, baby.
Yep.